Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of E-Heroes for those keeping count. This is episode 306, and today we're going to be talking about being infinitely dangerous, reclaiming the dangerous modern man. So I brought on, my next guest is way down there in that magical land down under called Sydney or Australia. No, no, it's just she's in the future and she knows everything. Well, 15 hours in the future?
15 hours.
So I brought on Joe Jackson, and she is a performance architect. And I don't even know what a dangerous modern man is, but that intrigues me. And so we're gonna find out together. So welcome, Joe, and thanks for being here.
Thanks so much, Rob. I appreciate the opportunity. And to your guest, welcome to the future. This is
Yeah,
what tomorrow looks like
it's
before you get to see it.
I've interviewed a few people from Australia, and they always have this insight that it's phenomenal because it's just they've already experienced this day already. So it's I've had copywriter Pauline Lungden on, who is out in Brisbane, and
hmm
so I think they might even be a couple more hours ahead. But
Same,
it's always
actually, same time zone at the
yeah,
moment.
really okay.
Yeah, at the moment.
It's as you know, it's always a struggle though because I'm trying to figure out okay time zone, and it's like oh crap, just Google it, because I'm trying to figure out what my time is, and so we're recording this on a day that's a little different because I need to accommodate Joe's time, and so we're just going to jump right in, and I the reason I brought Joe on is she's got this awesome banner on her Facebook, and it's infinitely dangerous,
Mm.
and that intrigued me because I just always live my life the way I live my life. I don't have an agenda. I'm not politically correct. I'm very sarcastic, so I don't know if I fall within that realm of being dangerous. And I don't know, what my listeners would think of me. Maybe some of them I know what they think of me, but by and large, I think there's a lot of people out there that are confused of their potential.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Rob. And let me start by saying that the concept of dangerous is based on self-assessment. And it's something that nobody can tell you that you are. You either know it or you don't.
Hmm.
One of the biggest misconceptions about dangerous. So let me first talk to the elephant in the room because I think it's really important. Most people consider dangerous to be criminal. When they start thinking about what's dangerous, they think of something that's violent. They think of something that's unwanted. They think of something that's threatening. They think of all the negativity surrounding the word dangerous. We start using words like terrorism,
Hmm.
and I want to just first of all clarify that is not dangerous in the sense of the word that I am using it. For those of you who are familiar with Dr. Jordan Peterson's work, you will have known that he uses the word dangerous in a completely different context. And he talks about the difference between a good man and a dangerous man. And he simply says it like this: a kind man is not a good man. Based on what we've been taught throughout the years, we think that if he's a kind man, he's a good man. Well,
Hmm.
no, he's a kind man. And a good man is something broader. A good man is a dangerous man. A
Hmm.
dangerous man is often referred to as a warrior in a garden. He's the man that knows that he is the full spectrum of everything that is good through to everything that is bad. And he understands that he is capable of everything in between that.
Hmm.
But the difference with a truly dangerous modern man is he can sheath his sword. So, whilst he knows that he has the tools if he needs to protect his family or to protect his country for that matter, he has the tools. He doesn't need to go to the grocery store and wield it with bad behavior. He doesn't need to be intimidating at home. He's not that bully. He's not that person that's going and making other people feel bad because he knows within himself he can wield the sword if he needs to. But he also understands that the discipline and sheathing the sword is what makes him truly dangerous.
Hmm. Yeah, it's. And I think there's a lot of people out there that we want to be good. We want to be polite. We want to. The problem is that, and from experience, when I'm too nice to clients, they walk all over me. They do. But when I am a little assertive and I
Mhm.
can show them my sword, proverbial, um, they back down. They see
Mhm.
my point of view, or they don't try to take advantage of me.
Great example, and you'll know from yourself it's all in the delivery of that, right? It's not about you coming in and trying to use the thumbprint like a lot of people refer to. You're not trying to pressure that person. What you're actually doing is stepping in and setting up your own freedom. A lot
Mhm.
of people call it boundaries. I'm establishing a boundary. Well, I choose not to use that
Yeah.
for various reasons because a lot of what I do is about rewiring linguistics and language to make things work. So we call it freedom. When you're stepping in and saying, I don't like the way I'm being treated, you're actually setting yourself free
Mhm.
by saying, you know what, we don't do things this way. I'm not okay with that. So what I need you to know is when you and I have a conversation, this sort of language is not okay. Use any other sort is fine with me, but that's not going to swing. So you need to know that and see that that's a small shift.
Yeah.
And everything that I do is about 2 millimeter shifts from where you are to where you possibly can be. And that's where the word infinite comes in. We
Mhm.
talk about infinite potential. But the truth of the matter is, and you've done 300 podcasts, so you definitely know this, winning's not for everybody.
Yeah.
Everybody wants it. Everybody thinks that they're entitled to it, that they can have it. But very few are willing to make the investment to actually win.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, when I started this podcast back in 2018, I thought, okay, I'm going to do a year, and I did 34 podcast episodes, and I got behind, because I was recording,
Mhm.
weekly, and then
Yes.
people wouldn't show up, and then all kinds of excuses, and I finally said, you know what, I'm just going to put it aside for a few months and see what happens, and I was ready to give up. People were like, Rob, when's the next episode? When's the next episode? And I'm like, I don't know. So,
Mhm.
5, 6 months have gone by, and I finally said, enough's enough. Let's get your ass back to, recording, and but I wasn't gonna do the same thing I was doing, recording weekly. I started batch recording, 12 episodes at a time. So I knew that 3 months at least would be recorded. And it now 300 some episodes, and I'm being consistent to myself. But it wasn't about, and when I go back to stopping that podcast for a few months, I thought, this podcast really isn't for me. Yes, I'm doing the recording. I'm the host. I'm bringing on guests. But the messages that people are delivering while they're on the podcast, not for me. Although I do learn, it's for my audience. It's for their benefit. It's my legacy to them. It's what I'm leaving behind. And people don't get that about podcasts. They think, oh, it's in the now. I I, I I'm going to benefit from this right now. The majority of podcasts fail after just a few episodes. So the fact that I even got to 34 was great. The fact that I'm past 300 is amazing. You know,
Huge. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
and and it's the fact that I'm giving back to the listeners to teach them what I believe are awesome guests with super messages that need to be out there because I'm very sarcastic, so I'm not for everyone. My books prove that, and we're all about this attraction marketing, but is attraction marketing really what you want? For me, it's always about rejection marketing. I want to shush away all the people that are nonsense. And so the whole Rob versus series was, yes, it was, the first book was Rob versus the scammers, the second book, Rob versus the morons, and then so and so. But when you read them, you feel my sarcastic personality. You feel like you're in a room with me, having conversations with these people. but you also get a sense of who I am and what I do and how I protect my clients. And if you're not into sarcasm, you're immediately turned off. If you
Yeah.
like sarcasm, great. Let's have a conversation, see how I can help you. But I'm gonna reject probably 99% of the people who contact me.
And that's exactly what I'm talking about, setting a freedom.
Hmm.
You're setting a freedom to be you. You're
Yeah,
setting a freedom to say, this is who I am. And whilst I may or may not be concerned with your opinion, it's not going to control who I am
yeah.
because I'm comfortable in who I am. You have
Well,
a purpose that's greater than what other people want.
two of the
And that
words,
means that you can keep going.
right? Two of the words that I live by: freedom and legacy. And
Yeah.
people don't understand that. Freedom is not just about a thing that you do in your country. It's not about it's more than that. It's your freedom. How are you going to show up? Well, some days I want to work. Some days I don't. Some days I just want to go off on an adventure. You know, that's freedom. For me, early on when I became an entrepreneur, I hated working for other people. I didn't like the rules. I didn't like being, told, hey, you got to go this, go do this, go there. And I was like, dude, it's very inefficient. But I couldn't make the rules up. And so for me, that wasn't freedom. That was employment prison. It wasn't for me. And so freedom
But
for me was always a bit about me calling the shots.
yeah. And that's a you thing, right? And you've
Hmm.
identified that about yourself early on. You've taken the time to get to know who you are. I'm so glad that you brought this up because a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't take the time to get to know who they are. And because of that, you find yourself in a position where a lot of my clients do, your late 40s, 50s, and you're having what's commonly referred to as a midlife crisis. I choose to call it a midlife awakening because realistically, what you are doing is waking up to the fact that proportion of your life has gone by and you're looking at it in retrospect and saying, it didn't actually turn out the way I wanted it to.
Right.
But the awareness comes with the fact that more often than not, there was no intention to it. More often than not, what was happening is your life is being led by outside forces, outside influences. And
Right.
when you don't make a stand, when you don't decide who you are and choose a direction like you did when you paused the podcast, you chose. You'd be surprised how many men out there don't choose.
Yeah.
They let everything external to them choose for them and they just go on like a paper bag in the wind. They just blow along and everything else defines what they do, where they go, how they are. And before they know it, they know they're in this slump,
Yeah.
this midlife event, and they sit there and they don't know what to do. And more often than not, they're divorced. More often than not, there's problems with the kids. More often than not, they don't have a good relationship with the ex. More often than not, they're overweight. They hate the way they look in the mirror.
Hmm.
And the first step that they need to do is recognize where they're at.
Right.
It's what's my actual reality? Do I like the person I see in the mirror? And if I don't, why don't I like the person that I see in the mirror? What does that mean for me if I don't like who I see in the mirror? And that's the first step. That's what I call base camp.
Hmm.
Base camp is that awakening of, oh crap,
Yeah. Well,
this is not where I'm supposed to be.
this morning I got off the phone with someone who was going through self doubt, was going through, their sales were down. They were questioning everything about themselves. And I said, we're all going through a slump. It's the economy. And I'm not trying to blame the economy, but when people go through slumps, it's up to them to get themselves out. What can you do different? How can you
Mhm.
evolve to bring more money in or increase sales or hire more people or whatever. You know, I,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that every warrior is a warrior all the time. They have times of doubt. I wake up sometimes
Mhm.
and I'm like, do I want to continue doing what I'm doing? Yeah, I've been doing it for 30 years. You know, Being an entrepreneur is not for everyone.
No.
And I'm not going to say that I don't have self doubt. I do, but I use it to fuel my desire to keep going. I don't know if I could ever work for someone else ever again. So what can I do different? How can I improve? And that was the catalyst that started me writing books. And in 11 years, I've produced 44 books. And
which is huge.
yeah, and the first couple books were all about, services like social media, SEO. Then I started writing life lessons and partnering with other people to write their books.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes the thing that you think is going to, like one, I wrote one book, okay, and people loved it so much, and that would, people are like, well, help me write my book. Well, okay, I'm going to charge you. And now we have a publishing arm, we have a marketing arm, we have, you know, so sometimes, the thing that you fear the most becomes your greatest asset.
If you're willing to step into it.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
Absolutely. And that's,
there's so many, and I I hate to bring up my father-in-law because he's deceased now, but you know, back in the 70s, he started a carpentry business. He fell off a roof, broke his back, and after that, he didn't really want to build his business back up to where it was. And I kept giving him, marketing lessons and helping him with sales letters. And he says, "Rob, this is great. This is awesome." He didn't want to implement. He was so afraid of refalling off a roof or hindering, hurting himself.
yeah.
And I see this a lot in entrepreneurs everywhere. They hurt themselves or some emotional baggage comes in and it prevents them from jumping on an opportunity.
Do you know why that happens?
Please share.
More often than not, they're focusing on the how. In order to achieve something different, we need to become someone different. You'll know it yourself, right? You can't do the same things and expect a different result, because what you're actually doing is you're expecting everything external to you to bend to your will, but you're not doing anything different. You're
Right.
not changing, you're not evolving. By nature of life itself, we are supposed to evolve, but we don't, because we have distractions everywhere and because we're looking for the easy path. And because a lot of us are left brain dominant, we're straight into the strategy, the how.
Hmm.
How do I do this? How do I make this happen? But what we forget is the how's only one part of the puzzle. Because if you've got the how and you're still the same who, then you haven't changed your actions, your mindset, your beliefs, sometimes even your values
Right.
to match what that how requires. So we look at the how and say, this isn't working for me. This isn't working. I'll give you an example. I have a broken finger at the moment, it's not splintered right now because I've got nerve pain shooting through it even as we speak. The nerve pain is quite intense. It's like a 10 out of 10, someone putting your finger in a fire. And how do I manage that? I manage that by becoming a person that knows what this is. Now, this prevents me, or at least could prevent me from training. I do CrossFit and I compete. This could prevent me from training. But do you know what I did instead? I show up to the gym and I say to my trainer, the finger's broken. I have it splintered and strapped. And the first thing he says is, right, everything else works? Yeah,
Hmm.
everything else is working. Great. So today we're going to do squats. We're going to do abs. We're going to do cardio. We're not going to use the hand. We're not going to lift any weights. We're going to do everything else but, so you can continue on your training. Now I look at that and I can easily look at this broken finger and say, how do I fix it? Okay, well, I do the physio, I do everything I'm supposed to do, I strap it when I need to, I make sure I manage it. Great, then I let my body heal. Excellent. But then if I don't step into the who I need to become for my greater goal, which is to compete, this single thing, like a broken finger, can deplete me.
Hmm.
It can set me back
Right.
because suddenly this broken finger is an issue for me and I make it my primary source of focus, instead of looking at it like a speed hump, it becomes Mount Everest. And it's,
Right.
oh my gosh, I can't train. I've got a broken finger. Well, you just can't lift a bar. You just can't swing. You just can't hold a dumbbell. There's no push ups. There's no burpees. But that's not all there is to training. And if
Right.
you have a mindset of looking for excuses for reasons not to, broken finger's a perfect reason not to. But if you have that mindset of How can I do it? How can I make it happen? Which is based on the who do I need to be to make sure that I show up at the comp the best me? Well, the best me trains. The best me looks at a broken finger and says, right, so we're modifying the training for a little bit while this heals. The best me doesn't stop. Instead, it's committed to the end goal. And I maintain that person, that identity to make sure that the end goal is still achieved. This is just a speed hump.
Mhm.
It's not an Everest,
Right. Hey, you got
but
10
it's all in
fingers.
here.
Okay, one's broken. You got 9 more. Focus on them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I've got the rest of my body I can still train. A broken finger doesn't mean that I can't train the rest of me. There's so many times when we've got men that are in their 40s, 50s, that are retrospectively looking at their lives, having that midlife awakening and freaking out that they're not where they want to be, they give in, they implode.
Mhm.
Suddenly everything's a problem. Suddenly everything's huge. Suddenly my life's a mess and oh my goodness, this is too big. But it's the scary part is what happens next. That's where the worst version of them starts to show up. The aggressive version, the impatient version, the frustrated version, the stressed version. It leads to addiction in a lot of cases. It leads to a depression, anxiety, and it can even get, as you know, well, no doubt know, it can get even more tragic if men are not given some kind of support and
Mhm.
some kind of guidance
Right.
that it's okay. This is a point in time. This is an opportunity. This is not a nail in a coffin. This is an awareness for you to change, and the tools are here.
Yeah. Yeah. The problem is that I think sometimes they feel that there's not enough support or not enough of the right support, and they just go off and do it themselves, or they try to do it themselves, and they make things worse.
I love a man with pride. A man with pride will be the type of man that shows up in the best possible way for himself. But more often than not, the pride is misplaced and it gets very lovingly entwined with a sense of ego. And the ego steps in and says, you don't need to do that. You don't need to go to a woman to help you to learn how to be a dangerous modern man. What a joke. Are you kidding? You don't need her. Don't even think about it. In fact, I'm speaking to half a dozen men right now that are convincing me that they don't need my help whilst they're spinning their wheels. And I'm saying to them, so how's that working out for you?
Mhm.
And I'm not making any progress. I'm like, well, are you surprised?
Yeah.
Have you got a plan? Do you know what you're doing? And it's, yes, I'm going to the gym. Fantastic. How often are you going? When I get there. Okay. What's the goal? Oh, I just want to go to the gym. All right. Well, what motivates you to go? I just base on whether or not I feel like it. And I say, okay, are you starting to see perhaps why you're not making any progress?
Mhm.
It's, oh, well, I'm just really busy. And I love it when clients say that to
Yeah.
me, or potential clients say that to me. They go, I'm just really busy. And I say, you don't know the definition of busy. Trust me.
No, and they'll say to me, "Rob, how do you get so much done in a day? You do podcasts and books and help marketing and build websites and SEO and they can rattle off a whole list." And I said, "You know what? And I only work about 4 hours a day. I hyper focus. I get shit done. You know."
Yeah.
And I tell people, I said, "Look, I'm lazy by nature. So I get all my stuff done that I need to get done, and then I go relax and do other stuff that I really like to
Yeah.
enjoy." And they're like, "Well, how do you do it all in 4 hours?" I said, and I ask them what they do in their 8 hours, which is
Yeah.
not even close to what I do. So I
Yeah.
know that they have plenty of time to do other stuff. Oh, but they're too busy.
Definitely. Too
Okay.
busy, too distracted, too
Yeah.
too lost.
What do you do? Oh, well, what do you do at night? Oh, we watch TV. What do you? Oh, we binge watch stuff.
Mm.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Game of
No.
Thrones?
No.
NCIS? I mean, they're all good shows. Do you need to binge watch them? Why don't you watch one episode and then go read a book? Go
Yeah.
focus on your business. You know,
Spend some time with your partner. Spend some
yeah.
time with your kids. Build up your body.
You
Laser
know,
sharpen your mind. No.
I made that mistake too back when I started my cleaning business. A long time ago, 1995,
Mhm.
and I dedicated a lot of time to build that business. First 3 years, I struggled. Borrowed money, did what I had to do, and I did all the things that everybody does that's wrong, until I decided, you know what, enough's enough. This is bull crap. I raised all my prices, and people are like, "Well, Rob, weren't you like the cheapest person before?" I said, "Yeah, but it
Mm.
wasn't paying my bills, so I got to raise my prices." And I raised them enough that within a few years, I took the whole family to Disney World,
There you
and
go.
that was my motivation.
And you
That
changed your identity to raise your prices, didn't you?
and
You
and
changed how you thought about yourself.
Yeah, and the thing is that I knew that if I raised my prices, I could put some money aside for emergencies. I could take a vacation. I could do all kinds of great stuff. And the thing is that we first started doing, going to Disney in 2000, and then we went every 5 years up until 2018, and now we go every year. And people are like, "Aren't you
Love it.
nuts?" No, it's my motivation because every time I go there, I learn new things. Yes, there's rides to ride. There's things to do. That's not why I'm there. Because when I go there, I feel like I'm a kid again. I feel like I have some my kids are like, "Dad, you're outshining the grandkids and you're just going so fast." And I'm like, "Yeah, because this makes me alive. I'm learning stuff."
Yes.
And that's my motivation. And
Yeah.
and and so people are like, "Well, I don't understand. That's for kids." Yeah, but it excites me. And when I come back from vacation, I challenge myself reduce my hours, to raise my prices, to do more in less time.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that. They think that you should be strapped to a chair in front of a computer for 8 hours a day or more
Mm.
and accept the money that people give you. That's not how being an entrepreneur works.
Not if you want to be a good one. Not if
No,
you want to make an impact.
right. And so there's the word impact. And for me,
Yeah.
I didn't even think about a legacy until probably when I was in my 30s and 40s. Now I'm
Mm.
55, and it's like, okay, yeah, my books are my legacy. Podcast is my legacy. What else can I leave behind? Because it's not always about money. It's about knowledge. What can
Yeah.
I leave behind that will help the next generation? And I think people get confused. They think freedom and legacy equals money. Not always. But
No.
when you're living a life of fame and fortune, you know, that doesn't always give you what you want out of life. So I changed it to
Not
freedom
all.
and legacy because that was what was making me drive to be a better person.
So tell me, Rob, you talk about freedom and legacy, which is obviously very important to you. You've spent time investing in both of those. Do you remember a time when you didn't feel like you had either?
Yeah, I mean, and it was in the cleaning days. I was working probably 14, 15, 16 hours a day,
Yeah.
just to scrape by. And I felt like I was a slave to the business that I created. My kids didn't see me. I missed birthdays. I didn't take vacations, and I was spinning my wheels, working all these hours. And when I added it all up, I thought, well, crap, I could make more money flipping burgers at McDonald's than being an entrepreneur. You know, it was I had to change who I was. I had to evolve. I had to become better than what I was. And
Yeah.
I tell people, look, if I can do it, then anybody can do it. You just have to, you know, and it's not like you snap your fingers and just do it. Sometimes it
Mhm.
takes time. For me, it took me a couple years to realize that I was doing shit wrong. But I thought I was doing everything right, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
until you look at it from the outside and say, look, this isn't working. You're neglecting your family. You're neglecting, all the things that you started this business for.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, yeah, I created the business to have freedom, but I wasn't having freedom.
No. No, you actually built for yourself a cage,
Yeah.
hadn't you? And I really hope that anybody who watches this podcast rewinds and sees the difference between your face when you were talking about what you do and how you do it, and how everything changed when you started talking about the person you were before, when you had no freedom and when you weren't feeling like you were leaving a legacy, because that is a perfect depiction of exactly the difference that it makes when a person has a purpose.
Hmm.
There's a saying that says, a man with a purpose will walk over broken glass with a smile.
Hmm.
And I believe it because I've seen it. I've seen men that are lost, that aren't sure, but have this inherent knowledge. It's just, I know, Joe, there's something more. I don't know how to get it out of me. I know there's this inner beast in me, and it's like it's stuck.
Yeah. But
Can you help?
it took me a while because
Yeah.
and it was 1998, and my buddy at the time, and I've helped him with his books, um, Tony Polici. His brother was Joe Polish, or is still Joe Polish. Um, they owned Piranha Marketing in Arizona,
Mhm.
and I saw this ad for, marketing. I didn't know anything about marketing at the time, and Tony says, "Look, you know what? Why don't you come out to this event? You're going to learn stuff." And I was hesitant. I didn't want to spend the money. It was like my last couple $100. I did it. And, my brother gave me an airline ticket, and I went out there and I soaked up that marketing like a sponge. I changed everything that I could about my message to my audience, and that was the awakening, and that
Yeah.
that that was what changed who I was into something that I really wanted to be. And I had the cleaning business for many many years, and then I started the coaching business. And the reason I started the coaching business because I kept seeing these ads. You can have a laptop lifestyle and work anywhere you want. Yeah,
Mhm.
that's kind of cool because I'm just kind of running this carpet cleaning business and going all these local places that were in my town, and everybody knew me. That was fine, but I wanted more, you know. But the thing is that the first couple years I had this laptop, I had my cell phone, and I was making a little bit of money. I still had the cleaning business. It wasn't until my first book came out that I decided to sell the cleaning business and go to this full time. And now I travel. I don't even take a laptop. I take a tablet and a phone. That's all I do. Um, you could take a laptop lifestyle and throw it out the window because honestly, laptops are bulky. I didn't want that, you know. So you learn. You look at
You
what
do.
people are doing, and you're like, okay, maybe that sounds great, but you got to do it for the right reasons, you
And you
know.
have to have the
And
willingness, which is what you did.
yeah, and
You
and
had the willingness.
so and you know what? Early on, I took on these clients because they were friends of mine, or they were celebrities in their own right, and I thought these are the biggest pain in the ass clients ever. I'm not, and those types of clients can destroy your passion really quickly.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to say no to people just like that. So you can get those yes clients who make your life, you know,
Yeah.
pleasurable and meaningful and profitable.
And no one wants to drag anyone through change.
Yeah.
For anyone who understands how the consciousness works, you cannot make somebody change. I was asked recently in a sales call, actually, I was asked, well, how are you going to make me accountable for what I do? How are you going to make sure that I do the work that we assign? I said, oh, it's not my responsibility to make sure you do the work. You need to be accountable to yourself. And then you will come and tell me why you did it, what your motivation was, and then what the outcome was. Or you will tell me why you didn't.
Hmm.
And we'll sit and have a conversation about the reason why you didn't. Because you're not accountable to me, you're accountable to yourself.
Right.
And this is how we build what I call trust equity.
Hmm.
Trust equity is I say I will and I do. And the more you stack the evidence that you are who you say you are, the easier it gets to have that lifestyle that you want. You did it. You shifted. You went through the process. You took the risk.
Mhm.
But a lot of people aren't willing to take the risk. They want the comfort, but they also want the different life. And it's, well, you can't have both. In between those two options is a choice. And no choice is a choice.
Mhm.
No action means you're choosing to stay the same. But then what happens is this immense delineation between reality and expectation. And then people start saying things like, men come to me and say, oh, it should be like this. I should have this. It's, well, actually, no, you shouldn't have that. And I'll tell you why you shouldn't have that, because your life couldn't have happened any other way.
Right.
The reality is the reality. And if you don't have your expectation, it's because of decisions that you made or didn't make. But what happens with a lot of people is between these two spaces of reality and expectation, they have a choice of how they feel. And this is where guilt and shame and anger and frustration and stress sets in. But by dissolving those two and saying, my life looks like this is my reality check, here's my midlife awakening, right? What
Mhm.
am I going to do about it? And then having that identity shift to get the different life, then that's when everything starts opening up. But most people are stuck between this is what my life looks like, this is what I should have had. And in between this, I'm angry and I'm bitter and I blame. And I have what we call a to me level of consciousness, which is the lowest level of consciousness that is you can have. It's all about me. And if my life doesn't go the way I think it should, someone's done something to me.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
universe hates me. Life hates me. My ex hates me. My boss hates me. My kids hate me. Everything hates me, or someone did something to me 10 years ago, and because of that, I'm here now. I feel for people like that because they're still stuck in the expectation and mad about the reality, and they've forgotten that this is something that they have the complete authority to change. But instead, they take the back seat, the passenger, the victim, and go, oh, yeah, but.
Yeah. Well,
And if you're stuck in, oh, yeah, but, there's no change.
in 1997, I partnered up with somebody to open up a flooring store. It was a failure. By 1999, we closed it down. I got rid of the partner. 20 years later, I walked past him one time. I think I was at a McDonald's, and he looked at me, and I recognized him right away. And he still was bitter at me for closing down the store. And and I'm thinking to myself, dude, I've moved on. I
Yeah.
haven't. I don't even think I've thought about it until I saw you. Why are you still holding on to all that anger? And
Yeah.
there's so many entrepreneurs out there. They create a business thinking that it's going to be all joys and rainbows, and maybe it's nothing but pain for a couple years. Look, I've experienced that.
Yeah.
You gotta if you have a dream, if you think that you can get over here and make money, continue on.
Yeah.
But they give up. They give up. And I really love the book Acres of Diamonds, because sometimes you can find your treasure very close to
Mm.
you if you just keep on, working at it. But too many people
Yeah.
give up on that treasure very quickly, and they never get their acres of diamonds.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
for me, it's been a journey of 30 years. There's people who will make their millions, billions very quickly in life, and then there's others that maybe they're in their 50s or 60s when they make their billions. Everybody's journey is their own. You
And it's
know,
only an issue if you compare.
could I
If
have
you
done?
look at somebody else's journey and
Yeah,
compare, thinking that's where I should be, I
right,
should have what they have. Well, actually, no, you shouldn't, because you don't.
right.
Yeah. It was said beautifully in The Matrix, the movie. No doubt you're familiar with it, with Neo
Oh,
and
we don't have the
Morpheus.
Matrix here in the U.S.
You'd be surprised how many people I come across that have never watched it. They go, "Oh yeah, I should watch that." Okay, yeah, you really should watch that. But
I
this
mean,
the scene, and
the
you'll know it.
Matrix, the Matrix, the first one was great. The fourth one, not
This is the
so
first one.
much.
Fourth one, yeah, it was quite interesting. But the scene basically says exactly that, right? Where Neo asks, "How do I know it could have happened any differently?" And Morpheus, matter of factly, says because it didn't.
Right.
And this is the truth of it. I look at a broken finger and I'm frustrated by the fact that I have a broken finger because it was an accident that was avoidable.
Yeah.
And it's darn it, it's not supposed to be this way. Well, actually, yeah, it is, because this is the way it is. This is reality. And by complaining about it and getting stuck in the should haves, we're not giving ourselves any benefit. We're tying ourselves to a path that doesn't exist. And that's never freedom.
I really like, well, not say I really like, I really don't like the posts on social media where it says, if you could go back in time and tell your younger self some words of encouragement, what would you do? And I'm like, I wouldn't. It's not going to change who I am. This exercise is horrible. Stop posting this stuff,
Yeah.
because that just kind of affects our psyche and tells us, okay, well, you know, this imaginary story that I can go back and change history. It's look, if you want to change yourself now, do it. You can't change your past, but you can use your past to help, you know, figure out what your
You can
future's
change how
going to be.
you perceive your past.
Yeah.
Exactly right. And that's what I do with timeline therapy. We go back and we talk about the events of the past where someone's hung up on it, and we change the meaning of that event in their
Hmm.
in their subconscious mind, and then that changes how they perceive things in the future. So
Yeah.
then when they come up against that same sort of scenario, they don't react how they used to react. They have a new view, a new feeling associated with that particular event. So what was once a trigger, which could set a person back and spiral them back
Mhm.
into an old behavior, or that they don't necessarily understand. Now it can be reinserted with a completely different association.
Right.
So if that event then happens in the future, if they come across that person that triggers them, or that situation that sets them off, they can find themselves in that position again and go, huh, all right. They're behind the person in traffic that's cut them off. And instead of giving them the bird and yelling out the side of the car, which, a lot of people do, they look at the person and go, okay, cool, can you get it?
Yeah.
You're not going to bother me today. My equilibrium is staying static. I am in this lovely space of homeostasis where everything is good. And it doesn't make me weak. It makes me balanced. It makes me peaceful. It makes me simple.
Yeah.
And in that respect, these ups and downs, these peaks and troughs that we have in our Western society, especially emotionally, one of the first things we need to do is learn how to control our emotions.
Wow.
Emotional mastery makes a huge difference. You'll know yourself, right? You gravitate towards people who have emotional mastery. If
Mhm.
you're around people that fly off the handle at any given moment, you can be having a conversation and suddenly, boom, they've gone from 0 to 100, and you're stepping back going, wow, okay. You're less likely to want to be associating with those people frequently. It's going to impact their business, it's going to impact their jobs, it's going to impact their relationships. And the worst part about it is it impacts the relationship with their kids, because their kids are younger. They don't have the understanding yet if the kids are little. All they see is dad's completely losing it.
Mhm.
And what that does for that child is it sets a status of normality. Oh, this is how we do things. And they learn this is how we do things. And that child then repeats that behavior.
Mhm.
Emotional mastery is the best thing that anyone can ever learn. Understanding how the conscious and the subconscious mind work, and understanding their emotional triggers and their emotional home,
Mhm.
and setting for themselves a place where this is good. I'm at that level where things can happen outside of me and I might respond to it, but I'm not going to be up 10 out of 10 Mount Vesuvius blowing my stack. I'm going to look at it and go, he really shouldn't have pulled in front of me, but fine, go.
One of the, my 5-year-old granddaughter, one of her favorite sayings is, "Have a day." It's like, it's not have a good day or have a bad day. It's just have a day. You can pick
Every
how
day.
you choose. I mean, you can choose how
Choose
that
how you
day.
perceive it. Yeah.
Right.
She's
And
got that.
so,
She's got it. Yeah,
she's very wise for 5 years old.
I love
But,
that. Jocko
it
Willink does something similar. You might know of him. He's an ex-Navy SEAL. Does a lot of work around discipline. He has a mentality of discipline equals freedom, which I'm a 100% advocate for. He has a response to everything. He trained himself to respond to anything that happens with a single word. When his warehouse had a fire about 6 or so months ago now, his first response was, good, now we get to rebuild. So
Mhm.
he looks at any situation, no matter what it is, and comes out with this very balanced, very neutral, good, okay, what's next?
Mhm.
This means that we can rebuild. This means that we now know what we're dealing with. This means that we can bring in a new product. This means that we can work on the relationship that's not doing so well. But he doesn't associate blame. He doesn't associate negativity. He just comes in with a neutral, good.
Mhm.
It's like a full stop. Good. Now we progress. Now we move forward. And it draws a line in the sand of the past.
Mhm.
And it also confirms a reality.
Wow, this is a very powerful episode. I hope everybody has gotten at least 16 nuggets out of it. How do people get a hold of you? Where do they go?
I am on Facebook. You can look for me under Joe Jackson. As you've said, Rob, I have the banner that you can't miss. It has two wolves, the black wolf and the white wolf. And anybody that knows the story will understand the reasoning for it. It does say reclaim the dangerous modern man because that's absolutely what I believe in. I have a fundamental, deep desire to have the dangerous modern man restored
Mhm.
because he's going to make a huge impact on society in our future.
Yeah, and we need that. We need more. And I'm not saying take charge. I just think that we need better thinkers.
Yeah.
But the world's gone soft, and people are triggered every day. And I think if they can learn to take the glimmer of life, the little glimmers that happen throughout the day, and replace those with things that trigger you, I think things will get better. But it's going to take time,
Yeah. Remove the expectation and deal with the reality.
right?
Choose how you respond. Don't react to it.
And I'm
It
not
makes a huge
saying that
difference.
everybody should be like me because I don't want you to be like me. Sarcasm is not for everyone. Writing books is not for everyone, but I want you to find your inner strength, that superpower that makes you you. I always tell people nobody can do what I do in the manner that I do it, but I can't do what you do in the manner that you do it. So
Mm.
take that, what makes you powerful, and use it to your advantage. Everybody has a uniqueness to them that if they really concentrated on could make them millions of dollars, or could,
I,
help, the next generation learn how to, you know, end hunger. Whatever the thing is that you think can just do it,
yeah, yeah.
you
And the
know?
driver may not be money. The driver
Right.
might be impact. The driver might be relationship. The driver might be to instigate change.
Mhm.
But whatever the driver is for that person, each of our drivers are given to us as an opportunity to reach our full potential.
Mm.
And the first step we need to do is to understand ourselves and our drivers to then be able to step into the absolute entirety of everything we have to offer ourselves in the world.
And that makes Joe an e-hero, and I will catch everyone else on the next episode. Thanks for being here,
Thanks,
and
Joe.
see you later.